یا لیتنا کنا معک شاه سلام علیک یا لیتنا کنا معک شاه سلام علیک شاه سلام صلی الله علی الباکین علی الحسین اشکام مثل بارون صلی الله علی المظلوم کربلا از داغ شدم دلخون عشق بی تکراری ای غم بی پایان از قدیمم با تو یا قدیم الاحسان عشق بی تکراری ای غم بی پایان از قدیمم با تو یا
Rahman Rahim. If I can have everyone's attention please. باز هم فصل عزای تو شده یا مظلوم، دیده خونبار برای تو شده یا مظلوم. هرچی خوبی شده خلق ایز همه خوبترین، همه اش وقف عزای تو شده یا مظلوم. آفرید آنچه خدا بهر تجلی تو بود، عشق حق خرچ به پای تو شده یا مظلوم. کربلا صاحب یک وسعت نامحدود است، همه جا صحن و سرای تو شده یا مظلوم. صلوات علی محمد و آل محمد. اللهم صل علی محمد و آل محمد. On behalf of myself and our board, please accept our condolences upon arriving of month of Muharram and Imam Hussain alayhi salam shahada. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your Jama'ah prayers and all of your azadaris in this month, inshallah. We will continue our program on the second session. As everybody knows, our program starts at 8 p.m. So we already we recited Quran with Farsi and English translations. And we also recited Ziyarat Ashura prior to Maghrib and Isha prayers because the nights are now shorter, so that's why we have to do. If you would like to benefit from those recitation of Quran and recitation of Ziyarat Ashura, you need to join us at 8 p.m., sharp 8 p.m. every night. Our month of programs will continue through next Tuesday, July 16, every night at 8 p.m. As everybody knows, today marked the first day of month of Muharram, so the day of Ashura will be next Tuesday, July the 16th. If you would like to take a day off for that day, you need to get on it starting tomorrow, requesting a day off. And we will announce the programs for the day of Ashura, inshallah, as we get closer to that day later on this week. With that being said, we have our Imam Hussain blood donations scheduled for next Saturday, July 13. I checked with brother Dr. Ehsan Reza. We have 98 slots open, and so far only 13 has been filled. So we have a lot of slots open. Please make sure to scan that QR code. Hopefully there's one, yes, there's one on the sister side and there's one on the door for the brother side. Please scan that QR code and schedule your blood drive for next week, July the 13th. Slots are open from 7:30 in the morning through 2 or 2:30 in the afternoon. As you all know, these trucks from Red Cross, these are not easy to get, and everybody cannot do it. We thank Brother Ehsan Reza to do this for us, and it's a very good opportunity to save lives. And also, we have to mention, we all know that we have a verse in Quran that says, if you save one life, it's like you have saved the entire humanity, right? So following that ayah from our Quran, please make sure to schedule your blood drive. And they're not taking so much in America. They're not taking so much blood out of you. It's only like 8 pints, I believe. 1 point, no, not 8 points. That would be too much, yes. So it's not that much. I mention this every year, but I forget. But 1 pint is not that much, yes. Shay, we're going to have it next week, inshallah. Not during the weekdays because of that. We'll talk later. Inshallah. So with that being said, please make sure to, it's very easy. It takes only 2-3 minutes. I did mine last night, actually. It doesn't take that much time. So please make sure that you have a spot, and we donate in the name of, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the name of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and it's a very good cause. Every pint that you are donating will save 3 lives. So imagine how much reward we're getting from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for doing that. Also, the Behsht Zahra annual program has been scheduled for the following Saturday, July 20th. Please be aware of that. And as we get closer to that, I will be announcing those every night again, inshallah. And lastly, for the food, we need more sponsors, my brothers and sisters. For this 10 nights that we're here, from last night until next Tuesday, we need 11 meals to serve, including the day of Ashura, which will count 2 meals, 1 lunch and 1 for dinner. We have only sponsors so far for 4 meals. So if you can please help us out in that department, that would be greatly appreciated. If you want to take the entire night, that's fine, that would be great. Even if you cannot do that and you want to help partially with $200-300, that's also acceptable. Please see Brother Zai Amili and pay your for the meal. Please pay it to him, but just make sure that you're telling him that this is for the meal, not for your regular membership or donation toward masjid. And with that being said, please make sure that you're up to date with your monthly pledges also. Please see Brother Zai Amili and Brother Saeed Razak and pay your monthly donations. We need your monthly donations to keep up with our expenses for our masjid. And again, since we are here for 10 days or 11 days, every day our expenses go up again. We need to buy utensils, food containers, and everything that goes with it. So please, if you can help us a little more this month, that would be greatly appreciated. And JazakAllah khayr to everybody who helps out their own community masjid. With that being said, for the poetry and articles, since these are the work nights, until Friday night, we're not going to allow, due to time crunch, we will not allow any poetry or article. If you have anything, please hold on to it for Friday night and Saturday night. And on those 2 nights, we can probably accommodate 2 or the maximum 3 people to come forward. And I know everybody wants to prepare some article, but we have a time crunch and we have to cut it somewhere. So up to 2 or 3 people will be fine. And with that being said, Ajaga Mudarris has started a topic last night, which was the art of communication. And Ajaga Mudarris will elaborate on the same topic as part 2 tonight as well, inshallah. With that being said, I would like to take this opportunity and thank all those brothers and sisters who are working tirelessly to serve everybody in this month of Muharram with the best hospitality that they can. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them all. JazakAllah khayr to everybody who helps. And please, everybody help us out to keep our masjid clean as much as possible. With that being said, I welcome Ajaga Mudarris to Munbar for the speech. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Please. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For the honor of the Holy Prophet, the seal of the messengers, the final apostle of Allah, Prophet Muhammad, recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the honor of the family of the Prophet, his progeny, Ahlul Bayt, recite the second salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the honor of Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam and his companions, recite the third salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه وحبيبه حبيب إله العالمين وخاتم النبيين بالقاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الهداة المهديين سيما بقية الله في السماوات والأراضين. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the honor of the Imam of our time hastening in his reappearance, please recite another salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Speech and ability to talk and ability to convey our thoughts is one of the greatest gifts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, greatest bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And without a doubt, what makes us unique as a creation of Allah in comparison with the rest of animals and creatures of Allah is this ability to formulate our thoughts, to articulate our thoughts and be able to express them and be able to communicate them with others. When you look at the words of the Prophet in regard of the organ that is responsible for communication, which is our tongue, and how powerful this gift is, we see that Prophet is warning us about the danger of this gift. That if we're not very careful, our ability to communicate, have the conversation, to talk, has the ability to destroy, ruin, but at the same time has the power to build, reform, and change for the better as well. It's a double-edged sword. Look at the day of Ashura as an example. One side, we see companions of Imam al-Hussein using their words, praising Allah, preaching for the sake of Allah, advising their enemies. And the other side, and the enemy side, we see that they use that tongue to mock, to make fun of the army of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And even in some cases, boast about their power and their size and being overwhelmingly superior in numbers. Both are using their words. Imam al-Hussein talking to his companions, Umar ibn Sa'd, the commander of the opposition, using his word for his companion. That's why we have in history that he referred to his soldiers as Ya khayl Allah, O army of God, labeling the enemies of Imam Hussein to be the army of God, the army of Allah, to kill the grandson of Rasulullah. And these words were one of the reasons in history that when Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad came in Kufa, used his words to intimidate people, to threaten them, and as well as bribe them, promise them, all for the promise that if you abandon Imam al-Hussein and supporting him, this is what you get. If bribing was a way, and they would agree, that was one way. If not, then intimidation, fear mongering, and tactics to use to scare them to abandon Imam al-Hussein. And that tongue worked, because ultimately majority abandoned they went against their words. They retracted their letters that they wrote to Imam al-Hussein and the allegiance they gave to messenger of Imam Hussein. So that's the power of word. The messenger of God, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, among the ahadith that we have that he warned us about the tongue is that Prophet said, وَهَلْ يَكُبُّ النَّاسِ عَلَى مَنَاخِرِهِمْ فِي النَّارِ إِلَّا حَصَائِدُ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. Said, is there anything beside their tongues that lead people to hell and their position in hell? يُعَذِّبُ اللَّهُ اللِّسَانِ بِعَذَابٍ لَا يُعَذِّبُ بِهِ شَيْئًا مِنَ الْجَوَارِحِ. Again, Prophet says, Allah will not punish people to the severity that we will punish people because of their tongues. Meaning that what our tongue is capable of is much more destructive in sense of spirituality, faith, that no other organ can cause that kind of damage. So that's why the greatest punishment in the Day of Judgment will be for the tongue. So at the same time, this tongue also could be a tool for doing a lot of khayr with it. Examples that we can think of that this tongue is capable is dhikr. So is to recite, to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prayers, supplications is one through this gift of tongue. Idkhalu surur, which is in our teaching meaning bringing happiness and joy to others, making others, alleviating their suffering and pain, could be done by the tongue. Gratitude, appreciation to people and Allah, it could be done through the tongue. Expression of our acknowledgement of what people has done for us. And the list goes on that how much khayr we can do. Repentance, apologizing, owning our mistakes. Again, a gift of tongue could be. But at the same time also, the rap sheet of sins of the tongue, we have in our books of akhlaq, they enumerate 70 sins. In some cases longer that this tongue is capable of. That the most famous one that we know is lying, backbiting, gossiping, accusations, slander, insult, and the list goes on, that what this tongue is capable of. So the art of communication from an Islamic perspective, from the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, is number one, is important to understand what are we dealing with. And last night I gave some examples of the history from the life of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, how he used his words to convey the message to people that even were his enemies. Tonight I want to give you a list that how can we work on our communication, because it's not something that we were born with, it's something that we can achieve through discipline and practice. Like everything else, that being mindful and being aware of our performance can help us to be able to rectify, to improve, to build on it. Same as with communication. So let's go based on this list, and I'm going to use the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt and Quran to work on that. So number one of the list, how can we improve, how can we enhance our communication? The first one is, we recited in Surah Al-Ahzab, Allah said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, addressing the believers, O you who have faith, ittaqullah. Be wary of Allah, be God conscious, be God fearing human beings. Ittaqullah. وَقُولُوا قَوْلًا سَدِيدًا. And speak in upright and solid words. So our word has to be sadid. Sadid is being translated as upright, but also it means solid. It means that our communication has to be clear. It has to be reliable, meaning that hearsay should not be the basis of my communication. I heard this. Where, who, what source, we don't know. Sadid means it's solid. If it's your words, you understand your thoughts, you communicate it properly. If it's somebody else's thought, you again communicate, you are going to be trustworthy to deliver and convey their communication properly. So قولوا قولا سديدا. And Allah said, يُصْلِحْ لَكُمْ أَعْمَالَكُمْ. If you do such a thing, if you start with your words and you make sure your words are solid, sound, and proper, then Allah will rectify and will fix your conduct, your actions. وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ. Allah will forgive your sins. وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ فَقَدْ فَازَ فَوْزًا عَظِيمًا. And the one who obeys Allah and the Messenger, indeed they achieved a great success. So that's step number one in communication. We have to stay away from matters that is not even clear to us. Unbiased and shaky statement has to be avoided. How many times in our families I've seen issues within couples because I heard my mom said this. My mom said that you said this. My friend, my cousin, there's always some kind of middleman or middlewoman in the communication that starts the conversation with this sense of disappointment or complaining or being upset because I've heard this. This is not a qawlan sadida in a matter of family. I referred to this hadith before that between truth and falsehood, the narration says there are 4 fingers, arba asabi'. What you see with your own eyes is the truth and haqq. What you hear usually is falsehood. Especially when what you hear is about people, is the comments that we get. Because ultimately everything we hear, you again do not misunderstand that, okay, I'm listening to this lecture, so everything I'm hearing, I'm listening is falsehood. We're talking about comments, opinions that are being expressed toward one another, toward people. He said this about you, she said this about you. Anyone who makes those comments should be ignored, regardless of who they are. And the worst thing is that when they make those comments, the argument is what? I say this because I care about you. I want you to know people around you. I try to turn you against your wife. I'm trying to turn you against your husband, but my intention is khayr. My heart is in a good place. Don't let, what my comment is going to do to your family make you doubt my intention. Just trust my word. I want khayr for you. So in communication, qawlan sadida. It's important when we talk to our children about any topic. We need to have this upright understanding. We cannot be saying, you know what, I don't know, it could be this. We cannot be iffy. Especially when children ask questions about our faith, we should understand. They ask me about salat, about prayers, about the rules of religion. It's not a matter that I can negotiate on. It's from Allah. We should be sadida, solid. This is it. This is what Allah says. If they're going to like it or not, that's up to them and that's their journey. So that's step number 1 in communication. Qawlan sadida. Step number 2. It's important to consider your audience in communication. Who are you communicating with? Meaning that in our communication, considering people, considering the other side is very, very critical. If you talk to your wife, you cannot talk to your mom the way you talk to your wife. You cannot talk to your wife the same way you talk to your mom. So you mean I should have double standard? Yes, different standards. Not double standard, different standards. You cannot demand your wife to be like your mother. Same as about your husband. You cannot expect them to be the same way they are, the way your friends are with you. Maybe you have buddies who you talk to. Not understanding who are you communicating with can create a lot of problems. So what to consider about them? Consider number one, they're intelligent. Look at who are you talking to? Are you talking to someone who's a smart, who's an educated, somebody who doesn't have that kind of background? Are you talking to a college student? Are you talking to someone who's a retired mother, stay-at-home mom? Who are you talking to? So don't be condescending in your language to your mom who stays at home, who never went to college. So your communication should be suitable for who are you talking to. It's narrated from our sixth Imam that he narrates it from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The narration says, ما كلم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله العباد بكنه عقله قط. Prophet didn't talk to people based on his level of intellect. A lot of people would have been frightened if people wanted to talk to them in his level. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم إنا معاشر الأنبياء أمرنا أن نكلم الناس على قدر عقولهم. This is what Prophet said. Indeed, we messengers of God, we were conveyed this message. We were responsible to communicate to people على قدر عقولهم, according to their level of intellect. According to their level of intellect. And that's critical for us in communication as well. I've seen one of the big problems in our communities is when two people from two different backgrounds come together. Someone who just moved here to US a few years ago, and now they were born and raised here. It doesn't mean one of them is smarter than others. I'm not accusing being an immigrant of being less intellectual, but there are two different worldview here. And one is trying to enforce his or her view to others. So talking to people based on their intellect is a way of communication, is a skill, is an art that we need to learn. That's why when Imam Hussein alayhi salam is talking to Abdullah ibn Umar, the son of the second Khalifa in Medina, he's one of the well-known scholars of Medina. Imam talked to him in one language. When Imam alayhi salam is talking to young men who are joining Imam alayhi salam, his language is different. He doesn't change the core message and his principles, but the approach is different. على قدر عقولهم. That's number two. It's important that in our communication, we keep in mind the audience. Also keep in mind their age, part of the audience. Who are you talking to? Are you talking to children? Are you talking to teenagers? Are you talking to adults? Why we should have different communication? Again, from the hadith that we have, is narrated from the Prophet again. Man kana indahu sabiyyun falyatasab lah. Prophet says. So this is from Man la yahdharu al-faqih, one of our hadithi books. The Prophet said, whoever has children, whoever has a child or dealing with children, falyatasab lah, then you have to act like a child. Meaning, not that, okay, I'm going to do a baby talk. That's not the only way. It means you bring yourselves to their level. You talk to them to their level. You talk like a child. Don't use big words with them. Once again, do not be dismissive of their thoughts, of their opinions. That's something again lacking in between fathers and children and mothers and children. Because the expectation of parents is their children to grow up fast. To grow up fast. We have both issues. Ifrat and tafrit always is an issue. We have always extremes that create problems. We had one ideology, Khawarij, who were extremists to the point that accused Imam Ali of kufr. That's one extreme, that no one will pass their filter. They're the only true believers, everybody else is a kafir. Even if the one who is Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Modern time, Daesh, modern time, all these ideologies is very extreme. That's one, Ifrat is one issue. Then we have Tafrit, Murji'ah, were another group, another ideology, who their ideology was that as long as you love God in your heart, it doesn't matter what you do. Your actions is irrelevant. God is love, love is God, you're good. And both of them, they had their own base. They had their own people who cheered around them and followed them. Both are problems. Both are extremes. Same as when it comes to parenting, we have extremes. We have those when it comes to their children, they expect their children to grow up fast. There's an 8-year-old, there's a 9-year-old, there's a 10-year-old. They have to act according to their age. No, sit. You're a 10-year-old now. What if, the poor child is the eldest child? Usually they have the toughest. Because the expectation is you're the eldest, you have to grow up fast. Your parents are looking up. Oh, now your sister, your brother is looking up to you. He didn't ask for this. She didn't ask for this. The expectation is that I'm going to talk to you to a level, to an age that you're not at. And then we have the other side as well. MashaAllah, 25-year-old man, that the mommy is still treat them like an infant. The only thing they do, I think, is helping them, burp. That's pretty much. They don't burp them. Anything else is done for them by the mom or the family. Both is a problem. Not treating the 25-year-old to that level, to that age. So in communication, we have to keep in mind the age as well. That's number 2. The third point when it comes to communication, recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. It's important to understand how much we need to communicate. The length of communication should differ in different situations. It's Muharram, is a majlis. The length of a speech is very different. For me as a speaker, if I'm invited to a nikah, a ceremony, a wedding ceremony, if I'm invited to burial, if I'm dealing with children, it's important to understand to avoid prolonging communication. Avoiding long talks when it's not necessary is part of a communication. It's part of the art of communication. Look at Imam al-Hussein as an example. Some letters that Imam Hussein sent to the people of different cities, they're basically leaders and tribal leaders of different cities. Basra is one major city. Look at Imam Hussein's letter. 2 lines is the letter of Imam Hussein. Imam, in that 2 line, we talked about the letters of Imam Hussein in previous years. Most of those letters are very, very short. Why? First of all, it's a letter. It's like when people send you a text message that is 2 emails. You've seen those, right? And I said, it's fine, but that's not the place for it. You're writing a letter, you're communicating a very important message. Keep it as short as possible, but convey what are you trying to communicate. This is what Imam alayhi salam did. Ala wa inna sunnata qad umitat wa inna al-bid'ata qad uhiyat. People, I'm warning you, Imam Hussein said. In the name of Allah, the way of the Prophet has died, the path of innovation has been revived. Now you know and what to do. I'm here to stand up, it is up to you. Everything else is implied. Nothing longer is necessary. In the day of Ashura, before the day of Ashura, Imam Hussein gives longer talks. before the day of Ashura. On the 2nd of Muharram, when Imam Hussain was stopped by Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, Imam, the way he talked was much longer. Because still, the time is not as urgent, as severe as the day of Ashura. On the day of Ashura, the conversation of the Imam comes to the point that in the final hours, what Imam Hussain is saying? Hal min nasirin yansuruna. Is there anyone to help us? Is there anyone to defend us? So it's important to know when and how much and how long to talk. And Amir al-Mu'minin Ali alayhi salam is advising us against unnecessary long conversations, long communications, because it backfires. When you talk to your children, why have to have a long talk when we want to advise our children? We've been told that it's important to communicate with our children, okay? I want to talk to them, and I make them sit. Okay, they're sitting. How long is going to be the talk? And in that talk, how many times we repeat one thing 20 times? And we think that is going to be effective. And Imam Ali is advising against it. And I wish we read more, we learn more from the Ahlul Bayt. What Imam Ali says? Imam says when it comes to young people, إِيَّاكَ أَن تُكَرِّرَ الْعَتَبِ. When you, let's say a child made a mistake, you try to blame them, you try to criticize them. إِيَّاكَ أَن تَكَرَّرْ. تَكَرَّرْ is tikrar. Avoid repeating this blame, this criticism over and over again. Reprimanding too much. I told you so. This is what happened. In the future, you're going to be a nobody. And all of this is because this poor guy got a B in his test. The image that is being portrayed by the father or the mother as if the apocalypse happened and now we are all doing dua for the end of the world. Yes, it's a big deal. You care about their future. But it's important to know how you talk. إِيَّاكَ أَن تُكَرِّرَ الْعَتَبِ. Avoid repeating excessive reprimand. فَإِنَّ ذَلِكَ يُغْرَى بِالذَّنْبِ. What Imam says. And when you do this, this will give more reasons for them to continue with their mistake. Meaning, you'd lead them to stubbornness. لَجَاجَةً. وَيُهَوِّنُ الْعُتْبِ. Also, this is going to take away the impact of the reprimand. Because you repeat it over and over, eventually it becomes, the boy who cried wolf, eventually is going to lose his effect. So understanding this is also key. How much and how long to say. You talk to your spouse, again, how much we're going to talk about a topic. If you remember when we talk about the art of thinking clearly, is a topic we covered for multiple weeks. I discussed the issue of jadal, which is argumentation. Which those who argue for the sake of argument. In Islam, we were warned about jadal. When you go to Hajj, said وَلَا جِدَالَ وَلَا فُسُوغَ فِي الْحَجِّ. When you go to Hajj, there is no more time for this. If you do, there's going to be penalty, kafara. Jidal is that you start arguing with someone, whoever it is. And the tradition, Imam Sallallahu said, when you do jidal, when you argument, when you prolong a conversation, that is not about exchanging thoughts anymore. It's only about you winning the argument. So what is jidal? What's the difference between jidal and conversation? What's argumentation and conversation? Conversation is when two sides or multiple sides, they're exchanging ideas. They're exchanging reasons. They're exchanging thoughts. That's conversation. Okay, you think is a good idea, I think is not a good idea. Let's say why you think is a good idea. They present their argument. I present why it's not a good idea. That's a conversation. It doesn't mean everybody have to agree on everything. What is jadal? Jadal is the moment that we express the thoughts. We already said our arguments and make our case for it, but we did not convince each other. We repeated. Just in case if they don't get it, let me tell you, you didn't get it. You've seen those people? I think you didn't understand. Let me say it one more time. And they're going to go all over it to the point they're going to repeat themselves until you said, you know what? Okay, I agree. Let me leave at this point. That's jadal. Or once they're not able to convince you or to reason with you, they start raising their voice. They're shouting. That's jadal. And our deen is corrupting our thoughts when we do jadal. Because the reason for it is not education, is not knowledge, is pure ego. I try to win. And when it comes to communication, one of the greatest dangers for communication is when we fall into this. And sometimes prolonging conversation, long conversation, italatul kalam, what is known as. Long conversation is because of jadal. My dear brothers and sisters, a piece of advice, brotherly advice. Do not try to force people to be convinced or change. You can't. No matter how many arguments you make, if somebody doesn't want to, they will not listen. Whoever that person is. Do your best to present proper reasons, arguments, but ultimately there is no guarantee they will listen. They will agree. If you start with that intention that I want to, as some people come to me and say, Sheikh, I want you to convince my son, convince my daughter. I said, okay, please, you came to the wrong door. If you're here for me to explain something to them, to the best of my ability, I'm your guy. I can help. But if you're here for me to win something for you, that's not on me. Especially when it comes to a matter that someone has to believe in or not. So that was point number. Who's keeping track? Number 3. Say the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And one more point and I wrap up. There's a lot on this topic, but I think I decided to keep these topics short, maximum 2 nights. So tonight will be the final night on this topic. The last and final point in communication. Yes, it should be solid argument. It means it should be informative. It should be proper, solid. It means you should have a proper data, proper stats, proper evidence, proof, everything. But that should not stop you in communication from having empathy. So in communication, what's critical is to have empathy. What is empathy? That's something we practice in Muharram. Empathy is that you feel and you care for the other side, someone outside you, someone beside you. You have the compassion for them. So if somebody is in pain, empathy means acknowledge their pain. Yes, you can say, I feel your pain, but truly we never can actually feel the pain that they went through. When somebody said, I lost my dad, you can't say, I'm sorry for your loss. But then we say, I understand. You cannot truly understand what they're going through unless you experience it yourself. But empathy says, acknowledge it. Yes, I understand, meaning I understand your pain. I acknowledge your pain. And in communication, it's very critical to acknowledge it. Acknowledging of people's, when you communicate, even if what they say is not right. And one issue we have, again, in communication between elders and young people is lack of empathy. Not all of them, sometimes. I heard this story and it still till this day bothers me. That a young man was asked to recite adhan. And this person, when they started azan, they started making mistakes. And people who I know, all of them were raised in Muslim countries. They grew up in Muslim countries and they migrated here. They start reprimanding, criticizing that you should be ashamed of yourself, what kind of a Muslim you are, that you don't know your azan. They start saying those things that that person eventually stop coming. So first of all, this lack of empathy. This young man, how much time he spent learning azan. If you learn azan, you woke up to azan in the Fajr. Even if you didn't want to, if you live in a Muslim country, you wake up to azan. You should be deaf not to hear it every day. It was part of the curriculum of your school. If you were in Muslim countries, they teach you in the Islamic segment of your school how to do adhan. So as a homework, you'd learn. And as a top of that, again, your parents were religious, probably they did it. What do you know of his experience that he's reciting adhan this way? He's going to probably a public school, most likely. He comes once a week on a Saturday, and on that Saturday, how much of that we spent to actually learn something. And also, from a young age, you learn Quran and all that. He doesn't know any Arabic. He doesn't even know Farsi or Urdu, so he only know English. So from English, learning adhan is very different from Farsi learning adhan, from Urdu learning adhan. The language, they're much closer. English is much further away. It's a stranger language. You don't have gha, you don't have qaf, you don't have kha. So it's lack of empathy and not understanding where this person come from. And that's why the communication is failing, not understanding where they come from. The other way, I always say, think both sides. When an immigrant comes here and they act in a certain way that you don't like it, you grew up here, you were born and raised in the US, they do something that according to you is not right. Then labeling them as fobs or other derogatory terms that, okay, these people are not good for, this is not for them, they should not be in charge. This is lack of empathy from your side. Just imagine if you move from one country to another, now you speak English. Let's move to China that nobody speaks English in some area. Good luck. I want to see how you're going to brag about your skills. Lack of empathy from both sides. But if there is empathy between these two different generations, two different cultures, it could help to build the bridges of communication. So that's why when someone is communicating with you about their troubles, please do not make the conversation about yourself. That's lack of empathy. Someone said, today I had an accident. What happened? I was rear-ended. That's nothing. When I got into an accident, you should have seen what happened. It was about them. Show some empathy. Everything is okay. You're doing well. No, you don't know. That was nothing. They have issues with their health. They have issues with their job. They have issues in their marriage. Empathy and communication is to acknowledge. That's why when we go to people who are grieving, Islam says to do tasliyat. Tasliyah, meaning that you comfort the one who's grieving. Somebody lost a loved one, you try to be accommodating to them. Our deen is to the point that not only verbal communication, even non-verbal communication, we have teaching in our Islam when it comes to people who are in trouble, when people are grieving. Islam says it is makruh, it is discouraged to go to the house of someone who lost a loved one, who lost a family member. Is makruh to go to their house for food for 3 days at least. Some say 7. That's non-verbal communication, meaning, I know you just loved a family member, you lost it, I'm not going to be a guest for you to be concerned about my food. I'm not going to show up for food. I'm sorry for your loss, my condolences, may Allah bless their soul. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. Walk away. Islam says you go to visit the sick and marid, do not stay there. Marid doesn't have the patience. Make your visit of the sick short. Non-verbal communication. You communicate that I know you're in pain. I'm not going to make you sit upright for me, for my respect. I'm not going to inconvenience you because I'm here to visit you. I'm going to keep it short. To this extent, our deen pays attention to details. Why? Because empathy is a major part of our faith. So in our conversations, in our communication, whoever you talk to, keep empathy as an element. Then when you look at Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam, empathy and lack of empathy is something we see between the enemies of Imam Hussein and the companions of Imam Hussein. When Hur returns to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, repenting, apologizing, we see empathy. He put his head down and he asked Imam Hussein alayhi salam, is it possible, is there hope, still hope for me? Would Allah forgive me? And Imam says, stand up. Indeed, Allah is merciful. Your name is worthy of you. Enemies, on the other hand, it's lack of empathy. When Imam al-Hussein is asking for Ali al-Asghar to give him water, the Maqtal says, he said, if you don't want to give water, take the child from me. Quench your thirst, give him water, and then take him back to me. We see the comments are not the same. We see mocking. We see that Sayyid Hussein is desperate. We see that the Umar ibn Sa'd says, answer Hussein. And Harmala, the archer, may Allah remove His mercy from them. He asked, what should I do? How can I answer Hussein? Should I go for the father or should I go for the son? Which one should I aim at? He said, go for the son. That will cause more pain for Hussein to see his son bleeding on his hand. This is how important it is, empathy. Ya Allah, give us rahmah in our hearts, give mercy in our hearts, that do not celebrate people suffering. Imam Ali cried on the bodies of his enemies. In the Battle of Jamal, when he was walking on the bodies of his enemies, he cried that because of some corrupt leaders, because of some confusion, because of misguidance, they end up here. This is a caring, kind Imam. Doesn't celebrate, gloat. And he asked when they're taking back Usara, the captives, Imam Ali asked them, so when you're taking them back, these women, there were some women in the Battle of Jamal, as you know, the Battle of Camel. Imam Ali said, these women, they were coming to the Imam Ali's companions and would curse them, would disrespect them. Imam said, be patient. They are grieving. Understand that these women, they lost someone. So do not respond. Even if they curse at you, even if they were angry with you, be understanding of them. This is Ali ibn Abi Talib, who cares for the emotions of those who are family members of his enemies. That's the empathy. May Allah, by the honor of Abu Abdullah Hussein, grant us mercy toward His creation, toward people, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us His rahmah and His mercy in dunya and akhirah with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Tomorrow is the 2nd of Muharram, is when Imam al-Hussein arrives in the land of Karbala. Journey of Imam Hussein started on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. He left Mecca on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. 24 days later, they arrived in this land that was known as Karbala. I mentioned last night that they asked Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, what's the name of this land? And Imam asked people, said they call him multiple names. He's known for multiple names. Nainawa is one of them. Ghadariya is one of them. Karbala is another one. And then Imam said, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-karbi wal-bala. Ya Allah, I seek protection and refuge to you from calamities and from trials. Let's take our hearts to Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam and his family on this day. We have that Imam alayhi salam on that day when he stopped. Eventually, Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi and his army stopped Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Imam asked him to let him move forward. He refused to go back and return to Medina, to Mecca. They refused. He said, we have orders to keep you here until further instructions. We have that Imam al-Islam eventually ordered to set up camp. If we cannot go anywhere, let's set up camp here. And it been mentioned in the history, خرج الحسين عليه السلام وولده وإخوته وأهل بيته بين يديه. Imam came out of his tent while his family, his children were around him. فَنَظَرَ إِلَيْهِمْ سَاعَةً وَبَكَى. This should be the musibah of tonight. Imam knew that this is, where is it going? This prophecy was made by Allah's messenger, by Imam Ali, by Imam al-Hassan. We have that when Imam Hussein came to his brother as Imam Hassan was poisoned, Imam Hussein was crying. And we have that Imam al-Hassan hold him and said, my brother, La yawm kayawmaka ya Abu Abdullah. There is no day, there is no musibah like you, my brother Hussein. All the weepers and criers have to cry for you. So Imam knew that this is coming. So we have that Imam looked at his children, looked at his family, looked at his companion for a moment, and he cried. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين. برادرم این سرزمین غم کجاست؟ چه فرمود امام؟ زینب من اینجا زمین کربلاست. خیمه ها رو برپا کردن روز دوم محرم. ابا عبدالله یاران اصحاب دوروبر حضرتن. کلثوم رو کرد به برادر از این سرزمین غم و غصه بر قلب ما جاری است. فرمود خواهرم توکلت به خدا باشد، صبر رو در پیش بگیر خواهر. روزی که آوردن خیمه ها رو برپا کنن، علی اکبر، ابوالفضل عباس کمک کردن. زینب، کلثوم از محمل ها پیاده شدن با عزت و احترام. این روز دوم روز سختی است. رسیدن به سرزمینی که ابو عبدالله اینجا وعده شهادت داد، اما وقتی رسید روز عاشورا تک تک اصحاب و یاران شهید شدن. ابو عبدالله که به شهادت رسید، زینب، کلثوم این یتیم ها رو دور هم جمع کردن. شب 11 چگونه گذشت خدایا؟ این که میگن امان از دل زینب، واقعا خدا میداند چگونه خدا به زینب او صبر رو داد. او زینبی که شب 11 محرم نماز شبش ترک نشد. نیمه شب میگن این زانوان زینب امام سجاد نقل کرده از عمم زینب توان راه رفتن دیگه نداشت. عاشورا رو گذرانده، از شام غریبان گذرانده، از نشسته روی زمین زینب نماز شب خواند. زینب وقتی که آمدن کاروان رو حرکت بدن سمت کوفه، آمد تک تک این زنان و کودکان رو بالای شترها و بالای محملها سوار کرد. اما زینب دور و بر رو که نگاه کرد کسی نیست زینب رو کمک کند. او زینبی که دوم محرم، علی اکبر، عباس، قاسم، اون و جعفر دور و بر زینب بودن، کمک کردن زینب رو. الان روز آخری که می رود کسی نیست از محارم زینب. امام سجاد رو هم روی شتر دست و پاش رو بستن. نمی روم ولی مرا به تازیان نمی برن حسین جان. نمی برم ولی مرا چه ظالمان نمی برن. و علی لعنت الله علی القوم الظالمین و سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Let's everybody stand up. We finish inshallah with Azadari. May Allah grant us all the tawfiq of honoring Muharram till inshallah the end of this season inshallah. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا أبا الله. سيدي يا مظلوم يا أبا عبد الله. سيدي يا مظلوم يا أبا عبد الله. سيدي يا مظلوم يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. اللهم صل على محمد. خیمه را کردم بر پامان از کربلا. داغ دارم می کند اینجا امان از کربلا. بوسه می زد مادرم زهرا مرا با گریه و مضطرب می گفت بابا امان از کربلا. رأس من بر نیزه خواهد رفت پیش خواهرم. می شود انگشترم پیدا امان از کربلا. زینبم تا که عقیقم را ببیند ساربان دست خود را میبرد بالا امان از کربلا. میخورد تیر سه شعبه انجر شش ماه جای قطره از این دریا امان از کربلا. غریب مظلوم ابا عبدالله الحسین صلوات. ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین. ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین. ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین. بال و پر سوخته آل اباییم حسین. ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین. ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین.
بس که خون دل از این دید از غم آی تو رفت، بس که خون دل از این دید از غم آی تو رفت، نشین لب دریای بکای حسین، ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلای حسین، ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلای حسین. عمر دنیا نرسد چون به عزاداری تو، عمر دنیا نرسد چون به عزاداری تو، تا قیامت ز غمت عقده گشاییم حسین، تا قیامت ز غمت عقده گشاییم حسین، ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین، ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین، ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین. روز محشر که امان یوم بقرماست حسین، ما سراسیم بسوی تو بیاییم حسین، ما سراسیم بسوی تو بیاییم حسین، ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین، ما مصیبت کرب و بلاییم حسین، ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین. هر که در عشر تو محشور شود با اهلش، هر که در عشر تو محشور شود با اهلش، ما با اذن تو ز طیف شهداییم حسین، ما با اذن تو ز طیف شهداییم حسین، بد زده کرب و بلاییم حسین، ما مصیبت زدن و بلاییم حسین، ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین، ما خجالت زده قافل زالار غمیم، ما خجالت زده قافل زالار غمیم، که سرافکنده اصرار حسین، ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین، ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین، ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین. در دل خاک ام از منتقمان میمانیم، در دل خاک ام از منتقمان میمانیم، ما کمر بسته به فرمان ولاییم حسین، ما کمر بسته به فرمان ولاییم حسین، ما مصیبت زد کرب و بلاییم حسین، ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین، ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین. چون برابریم به عشق تو سر از خاک مزار، چون براریم به عشق تو سر از خاک مزار، کرد رای پسر خیر نسائیم مسار، گرد خاک رای خیر نسائیم حسین، ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین، ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین، ما مصیبت زده کرب و بلاییم حسین. غریب مظلوم ابا عبدالله الحسین صلوات.
فلک ظلم و ستم بر زینب خون جگر کردی، از این غم تا قیامت خون دل خیر البشر کردی، طلب کردی به مهمانی شهیدین رازکین آخر، حسین را سر بریدی خواهرش را در بدر کردی، نترسیدی ز آه کودکان در روز عاشورا، دوپاره حلق اصغر را روی دوش پدر کردیم.
یا حسین.
شیعیان مای ازای خامس آل عباس شور و غوغا کربلا. شیعیان مای ازای خامس آل عباس شور و غوغا کربلا. در زمین و آسمان فریاد و افغان و لباس معشر یوم الجزات. شیعیان مای ازای خامس آل عباس
شور و غوغا کربلا.
شیعیان مای ازای خامس
آل عباس شور و غوغا کربلا.
آمدن در کربلا فرزند زارا شاهدین به کس و یار و معین. آمدن در کربلا فرزند زارا شاهدین به کس و یار و معین. سینه زن موی کنان در ماتمش خیر النساء ناله اش و غربتات. شیعیان
مای ازای خامس آل عباس شور و غوغا کربلا.
شیعیان مای ازای خامس
آل عباس شور و غوغا کربلا.
دشمنان آماده قطر شبان در کربلا از این قوم دغا. دشمنان آماده قتل شبان در کربلا از این قوم دغا. ناله طفلان او از نینوا تا ماسواس قحط آب نارواز. شیعیان مای ازای
خامس آل عباس شور و غوغا کربلا. شیعیان مای ازای خامس آل عباس شور و غوغا کربلا.
زینب در این زمین گردیده باغم مبتلا نالد از ظلم و جفا. زینب در این زمین گردیده باغم مبتلا نالد از ظلم و جفا. سوی آن خونین جگر از هر طرف سیل بلاد مسترو به اقربات. شیعیان مای
ازای خامس آل عباس شور و غوغا کربلا. شیعیان مای ازای خامس آل عباس شور و غوغا کربلا.
آزن وقتی که اکبر در محیط خاک و خون گردد از زین واژگون. آزن وقتی که اکبر در محیط خاک و خون گردد زین واژگون. بر سر ناشش حسین افسرده اندر نینواد شیون اندر ماسواد. شیعیان مای
ازای خامس آل عباس شور و غوغا کربلا. شیعیان مای ازای خامس آل عباس شور و غوغا کربلا.
درو کاروانو را درو کاروانو را بوی د کربلا راځي دشتونه په وینو رنګ څومره خوشنما راځي. درو کاروانو را
درو کاروانو را بوی د کربلا راځي
دشتونه په وینو رنګ څومره خوشنما
راځي.
روز د خیمې وینم پلمبو بلیږي روز د خیمې وینم پلمبو بلیږي. جنازه د اکبر جان لیلا پر جړیږي دی جړا د ماشومان اوښته مې رسیږي. د شمرو سنان وینم د شمرو سنان وینم مخ پر قتلګاه راځي دشتونه په وینو رنګ څومره خوشنما راځي.
درو کاروانو را درو کاروانو را بوی د کربلا راځي دشتونه د ګلو رنګ څومره خوشنما راځي.
وینم شپږ شپېته زنان پرسې تړلې دي وینم شپږ شپېته زنان پرسې تړلې دي. دویم د نیزو په څوک سرونه زړولې دي. د قرآن خلاشو کړي دي پرېکړ چې قرآن وایي پرېسر چې قرآن وایي کفر ته ژړا راځي دشتونه په وینو رنګ څومره خوشنما راځي.
درو کاروانو را درو کاروانو را بوی د کربلا رازی دشتونه د وینو رنگ سمره خوش نما رازی در و کاروانو را در و کاروانو را بوی د کربلا رازی دشتونه د وینو رنگ سمره خوش نما رازی
تاریک عینین میشو نوینم پستر گلمر تاریک عینین میشو نوینم پستر گلمر دمر بینم دی ولاد شمر سنان دی پرسر مور فاطمه بینم پجڑا جوڑا ماشر رچیر گریوان منم رچیر گریوان منم در فرارازی دشتون پوینو رنگ تمر خوش نما رازی
در و کاروانو را در و کاروانو را
بوی د کربلا رازی
دشتون پوینو رنگ تمر خوش نما رازی در و کاروانو را در و کاروانو را بوی د کربلا رازی دشتون پوینو رنگ سمره خوش نما رازی
ای نام تو جان بخش رضا به حیات محتاج تو خلقی به حیات و به ممات از بعثت انبیا و ارسال رسول مقصود تو بودی به جمالت صلوات
اللهم صل علی محمد
السلام عليك يا رسول الله يا نبي الله يا خير خلق الله يا خاتم النبيين. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين ويا إمام المتقين علي بن أبي طالب. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليكم أيها الحسن والحسين سبطي نبي الرحمة وسيد شباب أهل الجنة أجمعين. السلام على علي بن الحسين زين العابدين. السلام على محمد بن علي الباقر. السلام على جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام على موسى بن جعفر الكاظم. السلام على علي بن موسى الرضا. السلام على محمد بن علي التقي الجواد. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الهادي النقي. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي العسكري الزكي. السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان يا خليفة الرحمن يا إمام الإنس والجان يا أبا صالح المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. صدق الله العلي العظيم. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات ولشفاء مرضانا رحم الله لمن قرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
يا ليتنا كنا معك شاه سلام عليك. يا ليتنا كنا معك شاه سلام عليك. شاه سلام عليك. صلى الله على الباكين على الحسين اشکام مثل بارون. صلى الله على المظلوم بکربلا از داغ شدم دلخون.